The architecture of a legend the world remembers. Dr. Seuss is the whimsical creator of The Cat in the Hat and The Grinch. We see him as a man of pure imagination who delighted generations of children. But behind the rhymes and the strange animals was a life defined by deep insecurity, high society scandals, and a marriage that ended in one of the most heartbreaking tragedies in literary history. Theodor Geisel owed everything to his first wife, Helen Palmer. She was the one who saw the artist hiding inside the English teacher. She pushed him, marketed him, and built the foundation of his career. That is the cruel irony of their story. The man she created would eventually be the one to drive her to a desperate final act. The Dartmouth bust and the birth of Seuss Ted Geisel's career almost ended before it began. While attending Dartmouth during Prohibition, Ted was the editor-in-chief of the school's humor magazine, the Jack-O-Lantern. He was on the fast track to success until a single night of rebellion nearly derailed his life. School authorities raided his dorm and found Ted and 9 friends drinking gin. In the 1920s, this was a massive scandal. The dean stripped Ted of his editorship and banned him from all extracurricular activities. But Ted wasn't ready to stay silent. He began submitting his work under a single, enigmatic pseudonym to bypass the ban, Seuss. Meeting Helen, from teacher to artist, Ted moved to England to attend Oxford, planning to become an English teacher. It was there he met Helen Palmer, a fellow student from New York. While Ted was focused on academia, Helen looked at his notebooks filled with strange, doodled creatures and realized it was a generational talent. "Ted, you're a better doodler than you are an English teacher." Helen Palmer, in 1927, Helen convinced Ted to drop out of Oxford and return to the States to pursue art. By July of that year, he sold his first cartoon to the Saturday Evening Post for $25. It was the spark he needed to move to New York City and start his life for real. The flit phenomenon, bug spray, and famed Ted's rise to fame wasn't because of a book. It was because of bug spray. A cartoon he drew for Judge magazine caught the eye of an advertising executive's wife. This led to a 13-year contract with Flit, a popular insecticide. His catchphrase, "Quick, Henry, the Flit," became a national sensation, the 1930s equivalent of a viral meme. The money from the Flit ads allowed Ted and Helen to live a high life during the Great Depression. The travel, being childless and wealthy, they visited over 30 countries by 1936. The social circle, they became fixtures of the New York elite, rubbing shoulders with banking royalty like the Vanderlips. From advertising to boners, Ted eventually added the Doctor to his pseudonym because his father had always wanted him to practice medicine. His first venture into books was a non-fiction series titled Boners, and its sequel, More Boners. They became surprise bestsellers, but they lacked the whimsical spirit Helen knew he possessed. As the late 1930s approached, Ted began working on a fictional book featuring strange animals, the style Helen had seen in his Oxford notebooks. He was on the verge of his greatest breakthrough, but as his fame grew, the cracks in his perfect marriage were beginning to show. The 43 Rejections and the Mulberry Street Miracle. Despite his success in advertising, the world of children's literature was not an easy door for Ted Geisel to open. His first book, featuring his signature strange animals, faced a grueling path to publication. Depending on the version of the story he told, it received between 20 and 43 rejections from various publishers. His luck changed in 1937 when a chance encounter on a New York street with a former Dartmouth classmate who had recently become an editor at Vanguard Press finally secured him a contract. The result was And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street, which became an instant classic. He followed this with 4 more books, finally achieving the success Helen had envisioned for him. Propaganda and the controversy of war when World War II broke out. Geisel shifted his focus from children's stories to political warfare. He drew over 400 political cartoons in just 2 years, criticizing Axis leaders and American isolationists. While many of these cartoons denounced racism against Jewish and Black Americans, to support the war effort, his treatment of Japanese Americans was far more prejudiced. One of his most infamous cartoons depicted Japanese Americans as potential saboteurs, being handed explosives. In 1942, he enlisted in the Army's 1st Motion Picture Unit as the commander of the animation department. He produced propaganda films like Our Job in Japan, which characterized the Japanese as vicious enemies. His wartime work eventually earned him the Legion of Merit, and his film Design for Death won an Academy Award for Best Documentary. Dr. Seuss, The Man Behind the Mask. Part 3: The Birth of a Legend. The Cat in the Hat after the war. Geisel moved to California to pursue filmmaking, but his live-action feature, The 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T, was a massive critical and financial disaster. He returned to books, entering a golden era in the 1950s. In 1954, a Life magazine report highlighting children's illiteracy sparked a challenge from his publisher. Write a book using only 250 essential words for first graders. The result was The Cat in the Hat, which transformed Dr. Seuss from a successful author into a global legend. Its impact was enduring. For example, the book sold for 150 to 1,000 copies in 2009 alone. Decades after its release, the tragedy of Helen Palmer, as his career reached its zenith, his personal life was disintegrating. Helen had been ill for years, her health declining steadily since the publication of The Cat in the Hat. In 1967, she took her own life. Her suicide note revealed a woman lost in a spiral of despair and feelings of failure. She also left a hauntingly cryptic message. My going will leave quite a rumor, but you can say, I was overworked and overwrought. Your reputation with your friends and fans will not be harmed. The scandalous second act the rumor Helen feared was quickly confirmed. Just 8 months after her death, Geisel married Audrey Diamond, a woman 18 years his junior. It was revealed that Geisel had been infatuated with Audrey, a friend of the couple, long before Helen's passing. The transition to his new life was stark. Audrey immediately sent her two daughters to boarding school, stating that they would not have been happy with Ted, nor he with them. Despite the scandal of their beginning, Audrey remained his caretaker for the rest of his life as he battled glaucoma and eventually cancer, which claimed his life in 1991. The Erased Chapter. Because his fantastical stories are beloved worldwide, it is easy to understand why the incredibly dark chapters of his life, the affair, the tragic suicide of his first wife, and his controversial wartime propaganda have been largely erased from the public consciousness. We prefer to remember the whimsical rhymester rather than the deeply flawed man behind the drawings. The pronunciation mystery. There is one final mystery about Dr. Seuss that most people still get wrong: the pronunciation of his name. While the entire world says Seuss, the man himself stated that his name actually rhymes with voice, pronounced Seuss. Despite this, he eventually accepted the common mispronunciation, acknowledging that no one was ever likely to say it the correct way. SEO title and description. Video title options. Option 1. Hollywood Icons Mysteries Number 18. Dr. Seuss's Darkest Secret. The suicide note that exposed everything. Option 2. The tragic double life of Dr. Seuss, infidelity, propaganda, and a heartbreaking goodbye. Option 3. Why Dr. Seuss's first wife ended her life. The bombshell note and the second marriage scandal. Video description. The man who taught the world to read was hiding a story too dark for any book. In this episode of Hollywood Icons Mysteries, we pull back the curtain on Theodor Seuss Geisel. While the world celebrated The Cat in the Hat, Geisel's private life was a storm of high society scandal and personal betrayal. We examine the heartbreaking suicide of his first wife, Helen Palmer, the woman who created his career, and the shocking note she left behind that revealed the truth about his mistress. In this episode, we investigate the ultimate betrayal, how Dr. Seuss's affair with a close friend drove his wife to the brink, the Seuss propaganda, the controversial wartime cartoons that the history books often ignore, the 43 rejections, the struggle to publish his first book, and the chance encounter that saved his career, the Audrey Diamond scandal, why he married his mistress just months after Helen's death, and sent his new stepchildren away, the pronunciation secret, why we've been saying his name wrong for nearly a century. If you want to uncover the hidden truths behind the world's most famous creators, like and subscribe to Hollywood Icons Mysteries.